Hi everybody, Lori here for Simon Says Stamp. Thank you so much for joining me today. I've got a couple of fun projects to share with you using the July card kit, and I just wanted to give a little more inspiration. I know you've seen the card kit, you're probably familiar with it, but I'm going to use several different products included in the kit, starting with some of the Simple Stories double-sided pattern paper that comes in the kit. I'm going to be using a couple different sheets, starting with this black and white gingham check. I'm going to trim this panel down to 3.5 inches wide by 4 3/4 inches tall. I love a good gingham. A gingham with the floral is where it's at. Okay, so I'm going to start by die cutting a little window using one of the nested circle dies by Simon Says Stamp. So I held that down with some easy C tape, ran it through my die cutting machine, and you see that little bloom, that single little bloom that's in the You Shine stamp set included in the kit. I'm going to give that little bloom a workout, and I'm kicking it old school here. I'm stamping it with an acrylic block. I haven't done this, I'm telling you, for a really long time, stamp with an acrylic block, but I wanted to stamp about at least 10 of these blooms. And I have a panel of white cardstock. I rubbed it down with the magic powder bag, and I'm inking up each time with Versamark ink. So I'm going to be embossing these blooms in clear onto the white cardstock, and we're going to blend it to add the color. So that's why I used the acrylic block, because I needed to be able to move it around quickly to stamp several of these blooms at once. And I'm happy to report it worked like a charm. And you lose your confidence. I'll tell you what, you lose your confidence with the free range stamping. Okay, so I'm pouring on some Simon Says Stamp clear embossing powder, and I believe I stamped 8 of those, but I wanted to have a few more. I mean, when you got it all out, stamp a couple extra in case you make a mistake. It's always nice. Okay, so I had a little sliver of white cardstock. I stamped 3 more and just dipping it in that clear embossing powder. Now I'm getting my heat gun nice and hot off to the side. It's always nice when you start with a rip-roaring hot heat gun. Speaking of rip-roaring hot, I've been taking Hank the Tank, our puppy dog. He's not really a puppy. He's more like a dragon. But I've been walking him every day. And let me tell you what I'm doing with the card before I get off on a tangent. Taking one of these new round detail brushes with a little Lemonade Pawsitively saturated ink, and I'm going to do just the centers of each one of these blooms, and it goes quick and easy with this little detail round blender brush. So handy dandy. And if I haven't told you lately, the Pawsitively saturated inks, they blend like butter, and you can only say it when you pull out the New York accent. I'm not really sure if I'm doing New York justice, but they blend like butter. Now, while I was goofing around, I messed up my camera footage, and as you can see, I've gone ahead and blended all of these blooms using Pawsitively saturated inks, and now I'm going over just along the bottom edge with a darker shade. And I will have all the ink colors that I use linked in the description box below if you're watching on YouTube. You know how the Pawsitively saturated inks come in trios? Well, I use the lightest shade and then the next shade darker for that little bit of shading. And that gradient love, it really is the magic ingredient. That's what I think. Okay, so now I don't have coordinating dies for this You Shine stamp set. So again, kicking it old school, and I'm fussy cutting every one of these out. Was it tedious? Yes, it was. Is it worth it? Yes, indeed. Okay, and if you have the coordinating dies, this will go lickety split. So once you get all the blooms cut, we're getting the lay of the land to stamp a sentiment. Also using that You Shine stamp set again. Going to stamp Happy Birthday. A lot of different sentiments in that set that you could use if you don't want to do a birthday. I'm just going to stamp this with VersaFine Onyx Black ink. I am using the Misty for this one to make sure I get it straight, nice, clean impression. I'm popping up the black and white gingham onto a white card base. You can see that beautiful white border around the edge. And now here's where she gets a little hoity-toity. I'm going to glue each one of these blooms on around that window frame. I'm using some Barely Arts glue, any liquid glue. You could probably even use tape runner if you wanted to get really hoity-toity. Pop it up with foam tape, Because dimension is life. Now, did I know if I had enough colors? I did not. I suspected maybe I had too many. So I'm just eyeballing it here. I really am, and gosh darn it, it couldn't have fit any better. It's like it was meant to be, you know? Sometimes it just is, and then other times it's not. So let that dry. I'm adding a few clear sequins for a little bling, and then I zhuzh those leaves. I zhuzh them like my life depended on it. Give them a little air. Card number 1 is finished. Love the combination of the colorful blooms with the black and white gingham. It's always a favorite of mine. Now I'm going to make a second card because I loved the aqua gingham. So I trimmed that out again, 3.5 wide by 4 3/4 tall. In the kit, there's these window frames by Tim Holtz Ideology. A lot of different sizes. I picked one that seemed proportional. Okay, these are not self-adhesive. I was trying to pick off, I thought that was a backer. Maybe it was a sticker window, but it's not. So I put a little glue on there, popping this right onto that aqua gingham. And then I'm going to stamp this window box. I'm going to stamp that with intense black ink, and I'm going to color it with Copics. Now, I recently, after I made this video, saw a card by Callie Person that's nearly identical to the card I'm making. I believe she might have used a different window frame, but we had the same idea. But it's a great idea, and great minds think alike. So you can pop down a window frame and then add a little window box to the bottom. So while I'm coloring this in, I did speed this up because I color like a turtle. I do have my marker caps up there if you want to know exactly what colors of Copics that I used. But I never got back to my story about walking Hank. Every day for the past month, maybe 2 months, I've been trying to walk Hank around our neighborhood. We have like a 2-mile loop. But let me tell you, because this came up because I was heating up my heat gun, right? I was heating up my heat gun earlier in the video, and I said, you got to get it hotter than blue blazes. Yesterday I walked Hank, and speaking of hotter than blue blazes, I think it was in the 90s here in Illinois. And let me tell you, we were sweating. Well, I was sweating. Hank wasn't sweating. He was panting. But he loves to go for that long walk. If he could have it his way, he would like to do a slow jog. And every once in a while, I'll break out a slow jog. Maybe if it's a downhill portion or a flat, nice. But if it's uphill, you can forget about it. I am not jogging uphill. But he loves a nice slow jog trot. I can't always give him that pace, so most of the time we walk. But when we get home, he drinks like a bathtub full of water. Then he's got to go whiz. You know, it's this whole daily routine that we have. But he is the happiest pup. He just loves, and he's been jumping in the pond, which is great. I know he loves it, but then he gets a little bit stinky, so then we got to wash him. Hank's living his best life, needless to say. And you know what Hank loves? We're figuring out all the things. It's been a year now. We've never had a dog before. Hank loves kisses on the cheek. He loves them. He really does. But he's not a big cuddler. He'll like to lay by you, but not like right up on you or next to you. He likes a little bit of distance, but he likes to be near, but he loves a good kiss on the cheek. Figuring out all the things. Our house is covered in dog hair, by the way. Okay, so I popped on the window box. I'm going to emboss the sentiment, this "You Make Life Sweet." I decided to emboss this in white on a little panel of black cardstock. So again, I rubbed that down with the magic powder bag, inking it up with Versamark ink, pouring on this time Simon Says Stamp white embossing powder. And can I just say, I've been using the Simon Says Stamp white and clear embossing powder for probably almost a decade. And I got to tell you, they never let me down. I highly recommend the clear and the white. Most used. Okay, so I pop up the sentiment, which I die cut with one of the sentiment label dies. And there you have 2 cards to give you a little inspiration using the July card kit by Simon Says Stamp. I hope you enjoyed this video. You make life sweet. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time.